Good morning, it's Joyful Christian Hermit. And I realized that mercy, please, honey, please. It's okay. It's okay. That I was saying the dark night of the soul and the dark night of the spirit, which is correct, but I might not have had it exactly right. But there's also considered a dark night of the senses, which sort of goes along with dark night of the soul. And the dark night of the soul is more of the externals of our spiritual life, but a horrible experience. And the dark night of the spirit is a deeper, inner aspect. And, no, please, dogs. The reason, no, lovey, no, lay down, lay down, lay down, lay down. The reason that I'm bringing this up is that somebody had thought that, said, oh, don't despair, and brought up, trials that person was undergoing, for which I am praying for the person, said would pray for me, but I realized wasn't familiar with these dark nights, as John of the Cross describes them and explains them. And it feels like despair. In fact, I think it's worse than despair. But it's the Lord's doing. It's nothing that we're doing. The Lord is withdrawing himself from us. And in the one sense, in the dark night of the soul, it's more of the external aspects that we feel totally abandoned. All is darkness and as if despair. We think we can't go on, we can't cope without God. But we don't even recognize, at least I usually don't recognize, mercy, please, honey, please, baby girl. I don't generally recognize when I'm in it. I think I'm in or tempted to despair, and I get these it's just horrible. It's just awful. Really doesn't have to do with my pain or suffering, although I tend to think that that's it. I think, this is from that, or past experiences that are horrible and traumatic, PTSD kinds of things, flashbacks or whatever. But no, it's not. And then God usually lifts it right at the point where you think you can't take any more. Dark night of the spirit is more of an interior movement of the Lord. And it also seems as if, we're not with him, we're not gaining anything, we're not learning, we're not growing. It's also, I can't say pleasant, but in that there is, God does fill us with, gives us some insights or leads us on, even if we don't recognize that either right off the bat. So it's despair is different, true despair. And generally, people who are close to God or Christians a long time don't tend to have that. Or, unless they have a clinical depression or anxiety disorder or have left God themselves, then yes, the devil will move in and do these things, which are more psychological, mental, emotional. But the dark nights, the two dark nights, the dark night of the soul and dark night of the spirit, they are our senses or soul, but John of the Cross calls it dark night of the soul, dark night of the spirit. He says the two dark nights. And the one really is representative of the purgative. It usually is more like that, of what happens with more of us as we're starting out in spiritual growth. But as I've mentioned, it's not a definitive, oh, I'm past that phase and nothing will ever happen of that regard again. say, a purging of the senses or of the externals, you can bounce back and forth still. It's, I suppose, we could just use an example of our human growth. Just because we're old doesn't mean we don't have youthful thoughts or youthful feelings at times, or even act in immature ways, or unwisely or something. Not to be negative, but just in even non-serious things. And we don't always perceive like an old person or even act like an old person. We have moments that we have a boost of energy or a desire to do something capricious or feel young again, or think in a more youthful way, or even get an impulse to do something youthful or add a youthful touch to ourselves. So we don't always stay in the phases that we're in, even as people in our chronological age. I often tell people I'm physically 110 years old. I'm, what was the other one? Mentally 50, and emotionally I'm a 2-year-old, because you can seem like that at times, and plus it's humor. I have to remind myself that, we'll do things or we'll think things, we'll think, well, I thought I was over that. I thought I was through that phase or wasn't going to be bothered by that anymore. And it's the same thing with these dark nights, with the 3 ways of the spiritual life. While we're on earth, even if we're in the unitive way, if we have bits and pieces of that, little time periods or glimpses of union with God while we're yet on earth, we mostly, go back into more illuminative. We're learning. He's illumining us, which is sort of representative of the dark night of the spirit, where God darkens things so that we can see, so he can shine his light on us, just to put it that way. And in the dark night of the soul, it's more of our more of the senses. So it's sometimes called the dark night of the senses, where he withdraws himself and we think we're abandoned. And that usually happens more when we're earlier on in our spiritual life, where we are so dependent on feeling God's presence. We grow attached to that delight. It's like a child being given candy. We like that sweetness of God and of his, presence with us, or the little miracles, the touches of grace that we know God is with me. And, I had this experience and it was so wonderful. And that we experienced something, a dream or a feeling, or noticing things, making a connection spiritually with something else, and how great it is and how real is God. We're on a high with that. And then God takes away the candy and we think all is lost, and what have I done? If I'm not good enough, I've sinned, or what, when we haven't, maybe weren't as focused as we had been. But being human, we don't stay at an intense level all the time. It's not even all that healthy for us. But we might think and blame, I missed some external. I missed Mass, or I didn't go to every day this week, or twice a day, or didn't go through devotional prayers, verbal prayers, or I was distracted and didn't do all these externals just right. And we can get off into that tangent thinking that's the reason even. More of the senses or external things. When no, God removes himself from us and takes away his delights to get our attention and to strive all the more, to dig deeper, to go deeper into the inner spiritual life and a deeper understanding of God, that he's not in the wind, he's not in the rain, he's not in the externals. Well, he is, but not always. He's in the silences, as I think that was Elijah, was it? Who stood at the entrance of the cave and wanted to know, where is God? And he isn't in the wind, he isn't in the rain, he isn't in the storm. So God is teaching us to delve into the depth of God in the soul. I mean, in the spiritual. So those are the two dark nights, and I can go over them more carefully. And I think I'm going to get some John of the Cross books out and just show you different ones that are good to read and understand, because it's helpful to grasp what John of the Cross, what his poetry was expressing. And then he went back and described what his poems meant. Just to read the poems alone, we may not get the whole point of what John of the Cross was revealing through his poetry. That can even become a hard darkness to understand what he meant, because he was getting illumination with his poetry. He was being illuminated with his words and his expression, his understanding. So he wrote about these two dark nights. I think it's in the ascent of Mount Carmel. So it's good to understand these aspects of our spiritual lives. But often, like recently, when I was, thinking, oh my, what's going on with me? And totally in darkness. As old as I am, and as many dark nights of the spirit, the soul, and the spirit as I've been through, because you just recycle. And then, the further along in the spiritual life, it's mostly the dark nights of the spirit. You don't have as many of the soul because you've detached from the temporal. You don't, you know that God is beyond the externals and the senses. And so we die more and more to ourselves. But our spirit, though, see, we haven't died to our spirit in essence. That's what God's working on. And he's illuminating us so that we grasp God at higher or deeper or broader levels in different ways than in the more obvious or the external or the sweet delights. And it comes, like I said, to the inner joy. The outer joys, not so much. And what difference do they make, really? It's the inner joy then that we realize matters, and we grow with that. And we can be in tremendous suffering or whatever, and look awful and sound grumpy, and all our externals are indicating, oh my, this person's lost faith or something. But deep inside, it's even greater. The joy is there and the love of God is there. But the outer of our lives, be it whatever's going on, or even just in age suffering, dying, that's why, people even on their deathbeds, there's an inner component that's going on that no one other around them may not know at all. And that's why, I try to encourage people, well, don't worry about that person. We don't know what was going on within and with God in the spirit all during the death process and in their last moments on earth and following, you know. And that's true of anyone in the dark night of the spirit. There's much going on, much information being given by God and influence, and the outer may not show it or feel it at all or see it. But the inner is being fed. So, if we know these things, even if we don't recognize it when we're in them, because they are intense, really, they can seem like other, even to the person experiencing. But always God will let the person know through some way, through other people, like with me, or through scripture. There's always a lifeline going because God's the one that is the cause producing this experience. It's a gift, even though it's brutal. Especially, I think, the dark night of the senses, you feel it more. But the dark night of the soul, it can get horrible because it's so inner. It gets pervasive. And then starts coming light, illuminations, understandings. Even if we can't express them in words, we get infused and ultimately then realize God was there even more in the silence, more than we would ever have experienced otherwise, more than's possible with externals if we remain in the more external mode. So just wanted to explain that, and time for me to head out. Time just goes so quickly. And I now this is a human temporal thing. This is not a dark night of the spirit or soul or senses. Soul or senses are interchanged. But this morning I was upset just realizing just even to get the stonework done on the front or the house paint. I mean, I just felt like, how am I going to do this? Because I woke up exhausted. I think we were able to get up by 9:30. Dogs fed, did a little more sorting of junk on the counter. I have bags of bolts and nuts and different things that I'm trying to sort to make them useful for myself or others. Rather than digging through a bag, I can see the size or whatever might be needed, or I may not need it. It's sort of soothing to have something so simple to do, because the other projects feel overwhelming to me. But I had a lot of bubble wrap that I'd gotten from, my daughter had gotten a bed or something, and they wrapped it with all this stuff, and they were going to throw it out in the trash. Well, of course, I take it and fold it up, and I have it in a huge trash bag. I thought, somebody will use that, You pay a lot of money for bubble wrap, or to wrap when they move, they could wrap things. Somebody could. So, why I go off on these, but I like to help people. And I thought, I'll list that, free, all this bubble wrap. But I got it out of the entry of the house where I had it folded, but it was just a huge mound. It just, I'm sort of all over the place because of the distractions around me, of the unfinished efforts, and then all my illnesses, and how it just seems impossible. But I thought, no, that's just more of a human thing. The devil tempting me. See, this is a different kind of situation. And I had to tell myself, you just keep doing what little you can today. work on whatever. I'm going to come back from physical therapy and start trying to do some of the stonework in front. Get it ready. I have to seal stones. I have to get the corner pieces, get my tile saw set up, the small one, out in front, where I can just use it out there in the grass, and just go forward with courage. And it doesn't matter. I started thinking, something, what if I get sick again? Or, and I'm not that functional after that last illness. I haven't bounced back. Then I think, the dogs will need to go, they need exercise, all this. I am overcomplicated, and my mind is multitasking. My body needs to, but can't do much, really. Exhausted from pain, the increased pain, the progression of arachnoiditis. So I have to just stay still within and focused and just do whatever. It doesn't really matter at this point. Whatever little things I do is progress. Whatever couple of hours of this or that. I got the yard mowed yesterday. I'll get some perennials cleaned out again still today. I have to figure out how to get the sprinkler system going. I totally forget. Totally. It's just too much. I had so much suffering with that sickness. It's like everything is blacked out from that. From last fall, I don't remember any, really. I don't even remember who I got to turn off, to undo my sprinklers, to blow them out. I think somebody through the neighbor, maybe. But, so I have to just settle and just do what I can and not think about all that needs to be done. Getting myself all out of kilter before I even begin a day. So that's more the devil working on me, and then beating myself up for how this happened. But we don't know we're going to have surgeries in advance. We don't know that we're going to get sicknesses, catch something from someone, and with my arachnoiditis, it's always a lot worse. So, there is no point in blaming or having regrets or looking back. So that is how, when it's evil or ourselves playing into the temptations of despair compared to the other. And I'm old enough, I guess, and have been through enough that I could immediately recognize when I was getting this way this morning. Stop, sort a few things here, do a video, go to your PT, just keep going. Just keep going and do what you need to do. And know that God's, with me, within, and ponder God. Don't ponder all the temporal mess because the regrets, it wasn't, my initial error was being too risk-taking at my age, yes, and not heeding what my spiritual father said, but that's even over. Does no good to think about that. There are many positives for having this place. Keeps me going, forces me up, and it teaches me endurance too, perseverance, which is crucial in the spiritual life. And we learn it and practice it through the temporal first. Then we can apply all that to the spiritual. So that when I am not able to be up at all at some point, I'll have that groundwork of perseverance to put into place for then. So everything is useful, everything becomes a positive. God bless His real presence in us.